Hey guys, you are watching your anime world. How are you all? Please support to subscribe this channel for watching new interesting stories. So in this video, we will see second part, what if Deku unlocked the cosmic power of Lionheart. Here is short summary. A young Izuku Midoriya is caught in a fierce thunderstorm when he is walking home with his mother, guiding him towards a pillar of cosmic and mystical origins. Izuku gains something that will turn him into a new great strength in the world of heroes and villains. How will the wood handle the strength of a true hero? But before we start, if you want more stuff like this, then be sure to subscribe and like this video. And if possible, share this video with your friends. Now let's start the story. Izuku Midoriya is having a day to remember as he is in a meeting room full of several high-ranking heroes and the chief of police Kenji Saragame. They themselves had wanted to understand Izuku's abilities, as Izuku had told them what Izuku told them about the Greenette's abilities as being something of a non-quirk origin. So young Midoriya, you are telling us that your special abilities are a result of training in secrets lost to humanity for centuries. That has allowed you to do these things? Asked Principal Nezu as he looks at Izuku with interest. Yes, you are correct, said Izuku as he sipped his tea. So that could explain why Izuku's quirk couldn't work on you, said Cementos as he looks at Izuku with interest. Yes, and your ability to send out powerful energy attacks, said Nezu, nods in understanding. But what we are here to ask is, what went through your mind when you killed that villain? Asked Kenji as he looks at Izuku with a critical eye. Well, it was clear, because he wasn't a real person, said Izuku as everyone looks at him curiously as he continues. Well, to put it in simpler terms, that Nomu was a person that was artificially created. The reason how I know this is due to me being able to sense the spiritual energy of individuals, whether they are sick, excited or sad. I can sense them. I can also sense when someone is sick or dying. When I was sensing the Nomu, I sensed that it was unnatural in its biology, as when I struck it. It didn't seem to cry out in pain or feel any impairment in its body when I hit it, said Izuku as Kenji then says. He could have been on painkillers. As Izuku shakes his head in a no and says, no, painkillers would have caused slower reflexes even in a person with super speed or agility. It fought to the best of its ability without any issues, as everyone is impressed with Izuku's knowledge of the human body, as Recovery Girl confirms this. All Might then asks, how is it that you are able to heal at a rapid rate? It is due to my use of ki and Hammon. I am able to heal at near instantaneous speeds thanks to my access to said spiritual energies, said Izuku as Recovery Girl is intrigued by this prospect of Izuku's powers. This boy, he is looking to be an extraordinary prospect in this school, thought Kenji as he looks at Izuku and then asks. Well, this is impressive, but how can you explain your fighting skills? You fought like a professional martial artist and expert street fighter. That is because some of my teachers are some of the greatest of their time and masters of their fields, answered Izuku as the police chief was amazed by the Greenette's combat skills. Well, seeing as you did it in self-defense, you're not in trouble, said Kenji as Izuku nods in understanding. Well, I will be off. Have a pleasant day, Izuku. I hope to see you in the future in hero work, said Kenji as he walks out of the office. Elsewhere in Mustafa, a group of shipping movers are shipping lost items from the 17th century from the country of Wallachia, now known as Romania, to a museum gallery. As movers are moving crates inside of the warehouse, they feel an uneasy feeling from the items themselves, as if they are emitting a darkness from many centuries. Hey Toshi, you feel anything off about these packages we're delivering? Asked one mover as the mover he's talking to turns towards him and says, yeah Taki, I understand your reason for feeling the way. This stuff creeps me out in the wrong way. Especially from what the client said about where this was from. As the rest of the items are moved inside of the museum warehouse for study and cataloging for the exhibits. Yeah, Romania, the home of all that superstition mumbo jumbo. I can see where your fears, but come on, it's probably nothing but some guy with an early version of quirk. It's probably not true. There is no such thing as vampires, said the move as they move the heaviest craft containing a sarcophagus of sorts, unknowing of how untrue he is. As they finish, one of the movers opened the crate for a well-designed sarcophagus and accidentally cuts his hand on a crowbar while opening it. The man's blood leaks over on the center piece with the shape of a western dragon on the center of it. One of the movers, a bruiser of a man, says to his injured fellow mover, Hey buddy, go patch yourself up. The med kit is at the back of the cabin of the truck. As the injured man walks out towards the truck to get the med kit, unaware of what's about to happen. As the sarcophagus slowly opens, red glowing eyes beam through the misty air of the well-made coffin. The movers after finishing walks out as the night comes, unknown of a dark evil reawaken. A guard coming to close up, unaware that he is in mortal danger, soon finds himself pounced upon by a frail-looking but very strong elderly man with claws and fangs, as said figure bites the guard as he is screaming out for help. As soon the guard finds himself completely drained of strength and of blood, as the figure slowly regenerates to his prime self as a man with black hair and grizzled facial hair. As he goes to get a sword of a serrated design, giving it several twirls, as he hears sounds of more guards coming. Soon 2 more guards show up to investigate the sounds of their colleague. They look to see him on the ground. Before they could check on him, they are pounced upon by the figure as he quite literally disarms the guard who went for his gun, causing him to scream out in pain, as he is then beheaded by said vampiric figure. "No, please don't kill me," said the guard as the figure looks at the man, sensing a strange language from the guard as the figure's eyes glows a bright red as he looks into the eyes of the man in question. The man, feeling a surge of drainage of information come from out of the man's head as he drops to the ground in a seizure. So I am not in Wallachia or Europe, for that matter, I am in Asia, in the nation of Japan," thought the figure as he leaves the area. "No matter, soon this land will be under the control of Dracula," thought the now revealed Dracula, Prince of Darkness. The next day with Izuku. Izuku is eating breakfast with his mother when he sees a news report involving a site of ITY in the Mustafa's World History Museum gallery involving 2 dead guards and 1 with mental instability. Izuku feels off about it, as if he is feeling a sense of something dark has arrived in Japan. How wrong he is, as he is reading a book titled European Folklore. Izuku is unaware of the months he will have for the remainder of the break as he goes back to training. Izuku for his part trains to improve his beast abilities, as he feels something will need to be improved on his person. Elsewhere in Mustafa, a Dracula in human form can be seen walking inside of a library. "Excuse me ma'am, I am looking for a book on Japanese history and world history," asked the disguised vampire king as he looks at the old woman in question, who points towards the section of the library involving history, as the man bows in thanks of the old woman and goes to read up on the history of the New World. So it begins, thought Dracula as he begins to absorb knowledge about Japanese history leading up to current times. At the police station, the police chief is being brief on the situation at the History Gallery murder. Kenji Saragame is getting a look at the autopsy report on the victims. He had called Vlad King in to see if he could shed light on the murders, as he revealed to the blood hero that one of the 2 deceased victims had his blood drained from his body with only traces of fang marks. Vlad King for his part had seen many people with blood-related quirk and deduced that many crimes done by a blood quirk user aren't as swift and efficient as what was shown. This is starting to get weird. First Izuku Midoriya having abilities of a supernatural variety, now a killer with skills in swordsmanship and an unknown blood quirk. What's next? Thought Kenji as he looks over some paperwork involving a certain individual of a well-known criminal variety. As unknown to him, he is going to get another massacre of a criminal variety on his hands. Elsewhere in Mustafa at night, inside of a warehouse, screams, gunfire and sounds of quirks can be heard as Count Dracula is attacking a group of Yakuza led by one Kai Chisaki, also known as Overhaul, due to his quirk Overhaul. However, Kai isn't facing a hero or villain, he is facing the Prince of Darkness himself. As he and his forces are busy fighting him, a little girl by the name of Eri slips out of the warehouse and escape into the city. With Izuku, Izuku can be seen traversing the rooftops when he hears sounds of cars screeching as they stop. Izuku looks over to see a confused Eri running in the streets of Mustafa as a speeding car is rushing down the street in Eri's path. Izuku, acting fast, activates his lion state as he leaps down and picks Eri up with his jaws, careful not to hurt her as he sets her down safely. "Are you all right?" asked Izuku as Eri looks in marvel at the golden lion in front of her as Izuku transforms back into his human form, surprising the girl in question as she nods. Izuku senses in her eyes that she has been through a horrid experience as he picks her up. "Come on, I'll take you to my home so we can find your family, you shouldn't be out here in the dark," said Izuku as Eri feels safe with Izuku, not fearful of him as she was with Overhaul, as Izuku leaps onto the rooftops of the buildings and resumes his trek home. Back inside of the warehouse, Dracula can be seen drinking blood from the beaten and broken forms of Overhaul and his men. They put up a great struggle but was overwhelmed by the strength and relentless ferocity the Prince of Darkness brought with him, along with his vampiric magics that allowed him to overpower the quirk users of Overhaul's forces and Overhaul himself. Rise, my children of the night, we have work to do. Our numbers must be greater than what it was, for a new breed of vampire will be born, said Dracula as each of Dracula's victims he had bitten begin to turn into vampires. They proceed to bow to him and go out into the night to gather many before the dawn of the next day. Soon my kingdom will find new ground to stand on, thought Dracula as he drinks the last of one of Overhaul's lieutenant's blood in a wine glass. With Izuku the next day, Izuku is walking into the police station with Eri to see it is busy as police officers are swarming outside to the streets, with some of them in tactical gear. Izuku walks up to the desk clerk. "Ah, excuse me sir, I am here to file a report for a missing child bulletin for this little girl," said Izuku. "Yes, here, please sign this and wait in the waiting area. An officer will be with you shortly," said the clerk as Izuku and Eri sits in the waiting area. Eri for her part is playing a PSP Zeta, playing a game called Wind Beast, a game about a valiant beast made of wind fighting an evil dictator and his army of super mutants. She likes the game because the Wind Beast is that of a lion like Izuku. Soon the two are met by Officer. "Hello, I am Officer Toshin Kenta. I will be filling a report for you," said the officer as Izuku shakes his hand. They are seated at his desk for said report. "Okay, now start from the top on how you found this munchkin," asked the officer as Izuku begins to tell his story. In the same police station, Kenji can be seen with the hero Sir Night-Eye along with his protege Mirio Togeda, his sidekicks Bubble Girl and Centipeder, who has been staking out the warehouse of one Overhaul. "So you're saying Overhaul has been killed in some kind of way by the killer of the History Gallery murders?" asked Kenji as Sir Night-Eye nods as he then speaks. "Yes, and the figure from my visions seems to be growing a following from these victims. I don't know how, but from what has been seen he is growing it from the dead," said Sir Night-Eye as Kenji looks worried. "Do we have a name and face behind this figure?" asked Kenji as Sir Night-Eye shakes his head in a no. "All we have is an emblem that appears to be of Eastern European origin," said Sir Night-Eye as he shows the emblem of the dragon. Kenji looks at it with interest as he has seen it on the sarcophagus from the museum gallery for the exhibit for medieval to early Renaissance Wallachia. "That's not all. In the vision also showed a student you may have met, a young man named Izuku Midoriya of Class 1A, the mystery my old mentor All Might has told me about," said Sir Night-Eye as Kenji perks up at this and asks, why is he involved? "It is due to the power that he has that may solve this case and most likely stop something of unholy proportions from spreading from Mustafa," said Sir Night-Eye as Kenji nods, knowing he would most likely get flack for had to nod in agreement, as he sends for Izuku at his home. Soon Izuku walks into the room holding Eri as Kenji is surprised at the speed of Izuku's retrieval as an officer says, "Here is Izuku Midoriya, sir. He was here filing a missing child's report for the girl that is with him." "Hello again, Chief Suragame," said Izuku as he nods his head at the police chief, as does Eri, which gets a cute squeal from Bubble Girl and another female officer. "So you are Izuku Midoriya. I have heard much from you from All Might. I must say you were an incredible individual to have such an unknown power," said Sir Night-Eye as he looks at the greenette. "Yes, and I have heard much about you, Sir Night-Eye. Your detective work and skills are admirable and comparable to Eraserhead in some ways," said Izuku as he looks at the former partner of All Might. "So you're Izuku Midoriya, the kid with a power that isn't a quirk. I thought you would be bigger." "I am Mirio Togeda." Mirio as Izuku shakes hands with him. "Nice to meet you, Mirio, and it is nice to meet you, Bubble Girl. I hope you are doing fine," said Izuku as he smiles at the two. Bubble Girl for her part smiles at the greenette for knowing who she is as Sir Night-Eye speaks up. "Izuku, we had called you here for your help in solving a case involving the killings at the gallery and the more recent disappearance of a Yakuza leader known as Overhaul. Izuku, I have reason that you may be the key in solving this case and stopping a possible threat to Mustafa and Japan. Here is an emblem of sorts of heraldry design. We believe it will shine some light on this person in particular," said Sir Night-Eye as he shows Izuku the symbol of the dragon. Izuku goes through 2 of his books and cross-examines the symbol, confirming something they would soon regret as Izuku looks at them and says something they would find unbelievable. Well, your suspect is one Vlad Tepes of Wallachia, better known as Count Dracula, said Izuku as they all are disbelieving as Izuku stares at them, which gets their attention as Sir Night-Eye, Centipeter and Kenji are the first to pick up on this. As Mirio and Bubble Girl soon look at him and soon realize Izuku isn't messing around. What you mean he's real? Said Bubble Girl, very shocked at the possibility of the Prince of Darkness being real. Yes, he is very real. Dracula was once the warrior voivode of Wallachia, Vlad Tepes. Having a reputation of methodical savagery, Vlad became a great warrior king of his land. However, his methods soon adopted the same tactics of his hated enemies, the Ottomans, that made him fear among even his own people. It is believed that he was killed in a battle against the Turks, but his body was never found. However, here is one truth behind his fate. Vlad renounced God and became who you know of today, the Prince of Darkness, explained Izuku as Kenji, Sir Night-Eye and Centipeter are surprised by the Greenette's knowledge on the individual they have dealing with. How do we catch this man? Asked Kenji as Izuku looks at him and says in a crimson tone. This man isn't a man, he is the very night. You don't catch him, you must destroy him. For this is not a simple villain that you face. You face a man-turned predatory killing machine who has given into the very darkness of the night. For it will take your utmost skill, courage and experience to overcome and destroy him. For even Tartarus will not hold him, even the quirked heroes cannot control him. He is Dracula, son of the dragon. As everyone hears the severity of the Greenette as Eri looks at Izuku not with fear but with a hope of sorts. What are we to do about his victims? Asked Bubble Girl, curious of the people that are turned into vampires. Take them down hard, only stake them when necessary. Come on Eri, I need to get you to my house. I have a feeling the night will be long and hard, said Izuku as everyone turns to see a ray of dark clouds coming in from over the horizon, one that doesn't let the sunlight in. Chief Saragame, I would suggest that you call every officer and let them know of a situation of unknown perps. Let them know not to engage them and only observe them. Only if they get too close tell them to fire. While I go take Eri home, it's going to be a long night, said Izuku as he goes to take Eri home as Kenji does as suggested. That young man has the makings of a hero with that sense of danger and caution, thought Sir Night-Eye as he goes to gather heroes who would be suited for such a situation against the Prince of Darkness. With Izuku is running with Eri towards his home with utmost vigor as the storm cloud comes forward. Making it home, Izuku opens the door and is greeted by his mother. Izuku, welcome home, is everything all right? Asked Inko, worried for her son. Mom, we have trouble. I want you to stay here with Eri and lock the doors and windows, and whatever you see don't believe it. For there is an evil that has been unleashed in Mustafa that needs stopping, that not even the best of the pro-heroes can comprehend, much less counter. Said Izuku as Inko senses the urgency within her son and asks, what will you be doing? Helping out with said evil, as Sir Night-Eye told me I was involved in some way to deal with said evil. I can't let it run wild, said Izuku as he goes to his room and gets out a big bag of sorts from up under his bed and walks out of his room. Izuku kisses his mom on the cheek and hugs Eri to comfort her. Izuku, honey, be care and come back to me safely, said Inko as Izuku smiles at his mother and walks out as she does as he asks of her and locks the door. Lionheart, said Eri as she looks at the symbol on Izuku's wall to see the emblem of the lion on it. Izuku, walking out, sees Momo and Mina walking up the street as he calls for them. Turning, they see Izuku walking up to them. Ah, Izuku, how are you? Asked Momo as she looks at the Greenette in question. Hey Izuku, how are you doing? Said Mina as she smiles at Izuku, who smiles back. Pretty good, you too, but listen, there is something that is going to happen this night and possibly many more. I need you to be on guard and head home. Have your windows and doors locked. Whatever you do, don't look out into the night, said Izuku as Momo senses something off about Izuku and asks, Izuku, are you alright? Yes, I am alright, but it's important that you get inside. There are things that go bump in the night that are stirring and I don't want you two to get hurt, said Izuku as Momo and Mina nods reluctantly in agreement. As Izuku walks towards Sir Night-Eye's agency headquarters to regroup with them. Be careful, Izuku, thought both Momo and Mina as they look at Izuku's form. Izuku, using his free-running skills, soon arrives at Sir Night-Eye's hero agency. Walking in, Izuku goes up towards the meeting room of the agency. Walking inside, Izuku sees Sir Night-Eye. Izuku, good you're here. Everyone, this is the young man who will help with our situation. Izuku, I would like to introduce you to the strike team that will help us combat the threat in question, said Sir Night-Eye, as in front of Izuku is the rabbit heroine Miriko, the ninja hero Edgeshot, the dragon heroine Yukio, and Snipe the cowboy hero. Nice to meet you all, I am Izuku Midoriya, introduced Izuku. So you're the kid that I have been hearing about with special abilities that aren't quirk related. I thought you would be taller, said Miriko in a tomboyish tone. Well, things aren't what they appear to be, said Izuku in jovial tone as Miriko smirks at Izuku's remark as a girl with long periwinkle hair around his age group walks up to him. So what kind of powers do you have that can compete with a quirk? Asked the girl as she looks at Izuku in question, as Izuku shows her by transforming into his lion state, surprising some of the group of heroes as the girl and Bubble Girl caresses Izuku's fur, causing him to purr as he enjoys the caressing but soon transforms back. Wow, your fur is really soft yet strong, said the girl as she looks at Izuku, who blushes at the compliment. Nejire, it's rude not to introduce yourself to someone you're working with, especially seeing as he is your junior, said Yukio in a scolding manner. Oh sorry, I am Nejire Hado, nice to meet you Izuku, introduced the now named Nejire as she looks at Izuku, who smiles at her joyful attitude as Izuku then turns to Sir Night-Eye and asks, excuse me Sir Night-Eye, I need to change before he get on our venture. Do you have a room for me to change? Asked Izuku as Night-Eye points towards a changing room down the corner on the right. Izuku goes to change his clothing to what is needed for this situation. He checks his equipment and sees that each equipment is of need. As he walks back, they all look at him with curious looks as Izuku walks out with armor akin to that of a samurai and ninja gear, only with designs of a modern soldier mixed in. I see that your masters have given you something for such an occasion as secretive as this, said Night-Eye as Izuku nods at the man as he turns towards the other heroes. Well, Sir Night-Eye hasn't told you yet. We are dealing with an ancient evil that has been known throughout the modern world, said Izuku as Edgeshot speaks up. Yes, Count Dracula, said Edgeshot as he sees that Izuku isn't joking around, as Miriko speaks up next and says, oh come on, how bad can Count Dracula be? He's probably like the movies. As Izuku takes out a tapestry showing the Prince of Darkness himself in fearsome armor and gear, holding a sword of terrifying design, standing as an imposing figure. Does that look like an Eastern European gentleman to you, Miriko? Asked Edgeshot as Snipe whistle at the tapestry of the King of Vampires. So how are we going to find this fellow? Dracula could be anywhere, asked Snipe as Izuku speaks up. We find the patterns of his victims and follow them back to Dracula's lair. Izuku performs tantric hand signs as he channels energy into his hands, as he then places 2 fingers to Miriko's head first, soon covering her in white light. Wow, what did you do to me? Asked a curious Miriko as she looks at Izuku. It's an ability that I have that allows me to empower allies, enhancing and imbuing them with sacred spiritual energy. This should keep those vampires from turning any of you, said Izuku as he does the same hand signs and imbue the others with said energy. Incredible young Midoriya, you may have saved this nation from a terrible threat to bad no one will know, said Night-Eye. He feels the spiritual energy surrounding him. Think nothing of it, as Dracula at the moment is a threat to the human race as much as Japan. Plus I am not one for glory, just honor and justice, said Izuku as he knows that Chief Saragame will most likely get in trouble for his vigilante venture this day. Okay, let's move out. The better we find Dracula, the better we can vanquish the Vampire King, said Night-Eye as they all nod. The heroes are paired off, with Izuku being coupled with Edgeshot, Bubble Girl and Nejire. As they patrol the rooftops, Chief Saragame had sent out a curfew bulletin for civilians to stay inside of their homes for their safety due to a terrorist with a multiple threat on the city, and to be mindful of any acts of any suspicious persons. Izuku is moving on the rooftops, keeping up with Nejire, Bubble Girl and Edgeshot. So Izuku, tell me, how do you know so much about the Prince of Darkness himself? Asked a curious Edgeshot. My training under my masters had also included information about supernatural beings. One such being was Dracula. While I myself thought that he was simply a myth, the Vampire King happened to be very real, said Izuku as Nejire then asks, how is it that he can blanket the skin as he did? Yeah, this guy is supposed to be asleep during the day, isn't he? Asked Bubble Girl in question. Yes, but you have to remember Dracula is a unique case. He is able to do things beyond the regular scope of vampires, and due to him making a deal with the devil he can create control storms to a certain extent. As such, he was able to create cloud coverage to form over Mustafa with relative ease, and mostly used his vampiric magics to length it to possibly longer, creating this long night, said Izuku as Trio is shocked by this, as Izuku then says, not to worry, when Dracula is vanquished these clouds will dissipate and bring back clear skies. Elsewhere in Mustafa, the Prince of Darkness can be seen pouncing on an unsuspecting victim, sinking his fangs into him and draining his blood. After finishing, Dracula soon smells the air and senses through the eyes of one of his subjects to see heroes scouring the city, presumably looking for him, as he proceeds to goes for the weakest of the group. That group being Izuku's. Dracula sends his other subjects to distract and wear down the stronger teams as he goes after the weaker group first. With Izuku and company, Izuku senses a large group vampire heading towards Sir Night-Eye, but senses something of a very dark aura heading towards them. Izuku shouts, incoming, as Izuku pushes Nejire out of the way as Dracula attacks. Izuku draws his own sword out and engages Dracula in a sword fight. Edgeshot jumps in as Izuku is kicked away. Dracula engages the ninja hero in an intense one-on-one battle as Nejire attacks with spiraling energy waves and shock waves to keep the Prince of Darkness on his toes, as Izuku recovers and joins the fight as Bubble Girl keeps Dracula distracted with dirty bubbles. Izuku leaps at Dracula, tackling him hard into a neon sign. The Prince of Darkness is taken aback by this group's skill level. He senses that three of them are young, while the one who tackles him is more than meets the eye. He senses that Edgeshot is very much the more experienced of the four, as he slams Izuku to the ground and throws him away as he throws a piece of debris at Bubble Girl and Nejire, knocking them out of the air as Edgeshot reengages him in close quarters combat. Edgeshot for his part is being tested by the more seasoned and experienced Vampire King, as Edgeshot is being pummeled by Dracula, who uses physical strikes in his swordplay as Izuku, recovering from being thrown, jumps back in and performs a decisive disarm that renders Dracula weaponless. Dracula also disarms Izuku of his weapon. As Dracula draws his clans and wounds Edgeshot as he faces Izuku in hand-to-hand combat. Izuku is pushed to his limit when Dracula adds more pressure to his offense, as Izuku defends himself from Dracula's onslaught as claws and fists are traded, throws are executed. Izuku is desperately keep up as he then proceeds to use his hidden blade to stab Dracula in his jugular, causing Dracula to strike him away as Nejire knocks Dracula off the roof of the building with a powerful shock wave as Izuku gets up and goes to check on Edgeshot. Edgeshot, are you alright? Asked Izuku as Edgeshot responds, yes, I am fine, but we need to go after him. He is injured and he knows we're after him. As Izuku uses his hammer to heal Edgeshot's wounds. Before Izuku could go after him, discovers he's disappeared from sight, even he can't sense his presence anymore. He disappeared, said Nejire as Izuku then turns towards his sword and picks it up carefully. No, he's not, we need to regroup with the others for the hunt for Dracula's lair, said Izuku as Nejire asks, how? As Izuku gestures to himself and the sword as they radio Sir Night-Eye's group. Time skip an hour later. A shirtless Izuku can be seen meditating around the sword while doing hand signs. As the heroes wait for him to find Dracula. How is this going to find Dracula? Asked a curious Yukio as she sees Izuku continuing. I am using my mind's eye to track Dracula by using his sword as an anchor to the vampire lord, said Izuku as Bubble Girl and Nejire can't help but blush at Izuku's physique. Izuku finishes his hand signs as he then makes contact with the sword, as soon his eyes light up with red to them as he sees the location of Dracula's domain and his hiding place. Izuku, having been informed of the threat they are facing in Mustafa. He had found out the hard way due to an encounter with some of the vampires. Thankfully Izuku managed to purify the vampire plague from him. Izuku walks into the room in his hero gear as he sees Izuku's form. Izuku for his part is amazed by Izuku's number of hidden abilities as Izuku comes out of his trance to see them look at him with worry. I know where Dracula's lair is, does anyone have a map? asked Izuku as Chief Saragame hands him one as Izuku then marked the place the site as everyone is shocked at where the Prince of Darkness is held up at. He is in Suicide Fortress, said Aizawa as Izuku nods as everyone gets ready for a fight for their lives. Good job kid, why don't you sit this one out, said Chief Saragame as Izuku the responds. Sorry Chief Saragame, I can't do that, this monster needs to be stopped. While I have no doubts everyone here is an experienced hero, but this is evil incarnate we are dealing with. I must see this creature completely destroyed or otherwise this cursed night will never end, said Izuku as Chief Saragame, seeing the courage in his eyes, begrudgingly agrees as Izuku then imbues the chief and his selected SAT units he can trust to keep this event a secret. Alright, you all know what's at stake here. The Prince of Darkness must be stopped here. This is an assault of his lair, he's probably waiting for us foes that won't go down without a fight, so let's take the fight to them, said Sir Night-Eye as he gets out his katana and raises it to the sky as they all let out a rallying cry as they rush out of the room to do battle with the Prince of Darkness. At Momo's house, Momo is listening in on the listening device she placed on Izuku. To find out the Prince of Darkness is real is an understatement of the year. To find out Izuku is running off to face him makes the Ravenette fearful for her crush as she and Mina had to stay the night together. Izuku, be careful, thought Momo and Mina as the two hold each other's hands in worry for their respective crush. With Izuku and the heroes, Izuku disguised in a reinforced version of his armor looks at the fortress as they heroes see it as well. So does anyone want to knock on the door, said Izuku as Miriko chuckles at the phrase. As Yukio and Izuku send out a powerful fireball respectively destroys the gate. Soon the forces of Dracula from the vampires, hellbeasts and gargoyles charge out for battle. The SAT, Yukio, Edgeshot and Izuku cut down their larger numbers with ranged fire bullets and blessed arrows tears the first wave apart. Soon more dark forces pull out of the fortress to fight. Anvil of Crom extended version. As the SAT team is reloading, Izuku drops his bow and charges before any of the heroes could stop him. Drawing out two Masamune swords, Izuku carves a path through the forces of darkness like it was nothing as hell beasts leap at him only to be cut to pieces by the Greenette as he pushed through their lines. Wow, look at that kid go, he's like a juggernaut, said Miriko as she kicks a hell beast away. Such bravery, thought Yukio, Bubble Girl and Najire. They fight off the gargoyle forces in the air. That kid is going places, said Aizawa as he bats a vampire away using his bow staff. Good luck young Midoriya, said Sir Night-Eye as he decapitates a vampire overhaul attacking him with his overhaul quirk ending his life. As the heroes are fighting, Dracula is looking at Izuku Midoriya in question. Ah, a young lion, he is stronger than most. His death will be memorable, said Dracula as he sees Izuku enter the castle. With Izuku is barreling through creatures left and right trying to kill him. He soon stumbles upon the castle's inner works to find Dracula sitting in Caesar position. So young lion, before we do battle, what is your name? Said Dracula in his native Romanian as Izuku replies in Romanian. Izuku Midoriya of UA, I am here to stop you, Prince of Darkness. As Izuku throws Dracula's sword to him as he says, one who lives by the sword dies by the sword. As Izuku gets into his sword stance, as does Dracula, the two know that only one can walk away from this fight as the charge into battle. The two charge leaping at each other and engages in an intense sword fight. Izuku competes with the several centuries-old warrior in a sword fight. Dracula is amazed by the Greenette's skill with the sword. Hours went by as the heroes managed to get a foothold inside of the castle fending off the creatures of Dracula's legion. Izuku flips out of the way of a bull rush by Dracula as he manages to knock Dracula into a wall, hard knocking him through it. Their fight is on the roof of the castle. The two go back to sword fighting, neither getting the upper hand as they both exchange strikes, blows and parries, both outperforming each other's tempo. Dracula, seeing the sword fight is unsuccessful, decides to incorporate vampiric magic, trying to overwhelm him with wind gusts and lightning strikes using the clouds as anchors of his weather powers. Izuku's proficiency as a swordsman seemed to have pressured the Prince of Darkness as he blocks or evades several lightning strikes, wind gusts, and sword cleaves. Izuku parries a strike from Dracula as he flips over the Prince of Darkness and sends a shock wave that knocks him back. The two soon get into a blade lock as Izuku manages to disarm Dracula after breaking the sword lock. Izuku is disarmed by Dracula, who had turned into a human-bat hybrid. The heroes seize the intense battle as they try to help, only for Izuku to go into a human-lion hybrid state as he proceeds to face Dracula in combat. The two lunge at each other in a grapple as both exchange claw and physical strikes. Both are hitting hard as Izuku throws Dracula from the tower. Izuku leaps down to re-engages Dracula in the forest as the heroes follow. Izuku faces Dracula in a battle of man-beasts as they trade punches, kicks, throws, takedowns and claw strikes. Dracula is bleeding as he is struggling to keep up with his younger counterpart as Izuku flips Dracula on his stomach as he proceeds to rip the king of vampires apart as his spell over the clouds start to dissipate as Izuku deals Dracula the death blow via decapitation by man-beast claw. As soon his body turns to ash as the clouds open up to reveal dawn. Dracula's vampires upon his death begin to turn to ash as his gargoyles break apart and his hell beasts go back to hell. Dracula vanishes as the day's light burns his mauled form as his ashes are scattered to the wind. Izuku, after reverting back to his human form, transforms back into his normal state, his armor seeing better days from the fighting and his transformation as he looks into the sky itself. "Rest forever in darkness, Prince of Darkness," said Izuku as he turns towards the heroes as Nejire runs up and hugs Izuku, seeing that he is alright as she feels his muscled form and blushes as she breaks the hug. "Young Midoriya, you have done an amazing job in service to Mustafa and Japan. While you know no one can know about this," said Sir Night-Eye as Saragame has to agree. "I don't need any reward, only knowing that my city and my country is safe, plus I do have a souvenir," said Izuku as he goes over to Dracula's sword, a scimitar of unique design, as he twirls it around as he looks at it with interest. "Well kid, you got style in a bestial sort of way," said Miriko as Izuku smiles at the compliment from the tomboyish heroine. "But I wonder who brought his sarcophagus here to Japan," thought Izuku as he feels there are forces in play other than the League of Villains. He keeps it as a thought as he walks home, feeling the breeze of the forest. The night is over as a new day begins. Izuku is becoming more skilled and more experienced after his battle with one of history's greatest villains. To be continued. I hope you enjoyed this story. Also remember to subscribe and like this video. See you in the next video.